And at the end of the day, what we need to do is remove political influence out of this, because that's the freedom of speech argument, right? The government is not allowed to regulate what we say, even by proxy.
Coming off yesterday's story, we had the big news that Media Matters was in the crosshairs of Elon Musk after Elon Musk was in the crosshairs of Media Matters. We saw that Media Matters, which is a watchdog organization, and their job primarily is to go in and let people know that they should or should not be advertising for companies, because media matters. I will say this: their branding is spectacular. Their name is great. It sounds authoritarian, which in reality they pretty much are. They go in and they bully people, and they say you should not be advertising here, and do not spend your money on these brands, because if you do, you'll be seen as a bad person. So they went after Elon Musk and X, and here we are as Elon Musk. We talked about this a little bit yesterday with Razor. Has data on exactly what the issue was, as far as how Media Matters literally fabricated their story, as they went in and they essentially followed some people who say really bad things, and they followed some really some brands that spend a lot of money. And when you follow those people, and your timeline will reflect who you follow. So naturally, they fabricated stuff. So now here on the next step is lawsuits have been filed, as Elon Musk tweets out. It says fraud in both civil and civil penalties. This is coming from the great state of Texas, and Ken Paxton, as he opens an investigation into Media Matters for potential fraudulent activity. He says, "We are examining the issue closely to ensure that the public has not been deceived by the schemes of radical left-wing organizations who would like nothing more than to limit freedom by reducing participation in the public square." Here it is right here, right there. There it is right there. Thank you very much, Ken Paxton in the state of Texas, for doing this, courtesy of Elon Musk. But that's not it. Well, that's not all. We are not done. As in addition to this, we actually have the lawsuit itself coming that has been filed against, courtesy of, this is in the Fort Worth division here in Texas, which Fort Worth is in the North Texas area. When people think of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, here it is. This pretty much goes directly into the what they're claiming here, right off the bat with the complaint. But the long story short is they have fabricated things against X to make them look bad. But it doesn't end there, as Donald Trump's platform, Truth Social, has also filed a defamation lawsuit against 20 other companies. So we're getting a little pushback, but it's not done there, because guess what? Rumble has also filed lawsuits against Media Matters for the representation of Rumble. So with that said, gentlemen and lady, are we finally seeing a pushback? It's obvious we're seeing the pushback, but has the war against free speech finally really begun? Extra Zero, your thoughts?
I don't know. To be honest, I'd like to think that that there is some awareness and ground to be gained out of this, but it's just you look at the smear job done on Musk, and then also I don't think Musk has helped himself, with some of the doublespeak he's had, some of the standards that he's had. I mean, some of the outright things that he's not brought to fruition, things that have been perceived as lies. I mean, Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, I still call it Twitter. There are a lot of people that are getting flagged as bot accounts. The transparency has never come. He said right off the bat, if you're banned, you're going to, find out why. I've had friends, Melee Games, Static 2020, people that were banned for being bots, and there's nothing on their account that insinuated they were bots. But to bring it back on, I want to think that it has, but Musk's under so much scrutiny from external sources, and this company's been around. Media Matters has been around for a long time. There's also the public opinion aspect of it. I just really don't know. I think we're going to have to wait and see what comes out of this case. And I think it's a victory for Musk. Then yes, it will be. But if not, it has just as likelihood, just the amount of likelihood of fizzling out and going nowhere.
Shags, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Extra Zero is right a little bit here. I think the fact that all of these people are like starting these lawsuits at the same time is definitely a good thing. But someone in the chat said we're like 30 years too late on Media Matters. Like, and I do agree with that too. The journalistic integrity is non-existent at this point. It used to be that journalism was to investigate things and to question authority, and now all they do is they sort of run parallel to each other in hoping to push whatever news that they want or message they want to push out. And that's one of the big problems that I'm seeing is it's at the roots. So unless you can somehow get down to the roots and pull these companies up and pull the corruption out, you're just going to keep seeing it. And it's really hard to control that on platforms like Twitter and Facebook and all that. Like there's no clear head to them. You know what I mean? Like, even if you take out the CEO, you put someone else in, I don't know. I would like to think that this is the start of the real war on freedom of speech. But I think there's so many avenues to this because it's a global platform. How do you regulate speech in this way? I think Elon's doing the best job he can, but I agree with Extra Zero. Like, he hasn't delivered on a lot of things that he said he was going to, and that does not weigh in his favor. But now that we have all these lawsuits in place, I think we might start seeing some shift, at least away from politics. Like getting politics out of it.
Yeah, I think that this is ultimately going to really just boil down to money versus money. And you're dealing with, one of the richest men in the world who has spent more money than you can know what to do with, right? The idea of spending $44 billion on a platform, right? Mm-hmm. So you're going to go into what did the legal funds look like of X versus Media Matters? And I got to be honest, in a situation like that, given where this has been filed in Texas, in Fort Worth, where, look, I'm going to tell you straight right now, like, this is within, 45 minutes from where I live, right? And in the North Texas area, like, everything's 45 minutes from everywhere in North Texas. And people believe in this down here. People believe in the idea of free speech. And I think that if this goes to, let's just say even a jury trial, or even a judge trial, right? I think that this is going to end up in Elon Musk's favor. And I ultimately think that he will either own Media Matters by the time it's done, or he will he'll bankrupt it. One of the two. And
aren't they a nonprofit technically?
Technically, yes. I believe they are a .org organization. So I mean, I don't know. Can you bankrupt a? I mean, I don't know how that works from a nonprofit perspective, and maybe that's the shield that's always had them up, that's always kind of propped them up, which is even more shady. The idea of like activism through through charity, which is crazy. Ivan, what are your thoughts on all this?
I think I'm gonna be a little pessimistic and a little bit of a Debbie Downer on this, but I think the war on freedom of speech ended a long time ago, and we lost. And none of these people, not Donald Trump, not Elon Musk, not any of them care about freedom of speech. They care about their audience, and they want the praise of their audience. Now, because other media are chastising their audience in a way, they're retaliating. But like, these people have an insane amount of power. And if there's something that they also have in common is their ego. They love being praised and they hate being insulted. And, I will never say that Elon Musk praises freedom of speech, because we've seen him block people that criticize him. So clearly he only cares about his truth, not the whole truth or the whole freedom of speech of people. He cares about the freedom of speech of the people he wants. So I don't think we have a good versus bad. We just have a lot of bad people with a bunch of egos that are fighting amongst themselves to get their audience not silenced.
Do you feel, okay, can you provide me with an example of somebody that Elon Musk has blocked because he didn't like their perspective?
I will have to pull it up. I just remember when he when he initially started to when he bought Twitter, there were a lot of like when he got rid of the blue check mark and everyone can pay it. There were a lot of people that started impersonated him, like getting blue check marks as Elon Musk, and he and they weren't necessarily doing anything, and he was blocking them immediately. Now a lot of people were calling him out like, hey, this is a problem that we told you was going to happen, and they're not defamating you in any way. They're just creating little memes or jokes or here or there. Where's the freedom of speech that you said you were going to protect? If this is clearly just a parody, it's a parody of you that is not hurting the people, is not claiming any sort of like wrongdoing. It's just a joke. Why are you censoring it if you're not censoring other parody accounts? Stuff like that, you know?
So as somebody who has parody accounts of me, I think the danger with parody accounts isn't the idea when they're making jokes or whatever, or they don't agree with you, whatever. The danger of parody accounts is when they start impersonating you in conversations, acting as you, right? Which that's happened with me many, many times, right? And the idea of trying to damage relationships that exist, or damage relationships before they even begin, right? And so in a situation like that, I understand. As far as like, you know, people disagreeing with you, whatever, who cares, right? As far as people poking fun at you, it is whatever, who cares? But the idea of trying to damage relationships, that I think for me, that's where things kind of cross the line. But obviously and we're dealing with Elon Musk, who is one of the most well-known, richest people in the entire world. So the idea of him being mocked and ridiculed is something that, you know, it's exponentially greater than anything that, you know, anybody in our little bubble could ever even think about, right? I understand. I understand what you're saying, and I do think that I will say this: I don't agree with everything that Elon Musk has done, but I do think that he's done more positive than negative, and I don't think anybody is black and white. There's no good, there's no bad. There's shades of gray in literally everybody. You can do your best to be as good as you possibly can. And I think that a lot of people who are doing bad think they're doing good. And I think there's a lot of people who are doing good. Often, sometimes they end up doing bad. You see that all the time the last few years, where people they're doing it because, I have compassion and blah, 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 blah. And decisions have been made because they thought they were doing good things that ultimately led to horrible things happening. So I do agree with you from that perspective, and that, there's truly no all the way good or all the way bad. Jarian points out, says, but Soros has funded Media Matters. That is correct. But I just did a quick search on as far as the lawsuit, the money versus money aspect of it, and Elon Musk is, he is a multi-billionaire, $80 billion still, something close to $100 billion in value. George Soros only $8.5 billion. So, Elon Musk could still take, that backed organization to the bank from that perspective.
And I just wanted to say, like, I'm not saying that the entire world is just burning and that's it, like, clearly, even if I agree or disagree with like Elon Musk or Donald Trump or whoever they might be, they do bring good stuff to the table, even if they're only fighting. Like I said, I will die on that hill that they're only fighting for their audience. Like, I don't think that they're this saving people that are on the right side of history or anything like that. And what I mean by the right side of history is meaning that they are solely good guys. They're just like this God-sent angels, because no person is, but I do think that, like, there is also, with what they're doing, it allows for other companies or any entities to also be in check. So we see a repercussion positive for us, because we can still do or say whatever we want in a way. But yeah, ultimately, I would say it's more of, that battle of egos that sometimes we benefit of.
I picked up on something you said there, Ivan, and Craig and Shags. I'm wondering if maybe you've noticed this, but we're all about the same age, and I feel like back in the 90s and even the early 2000s, there would be public figures who, they would do something that nowadays would be considered polarizing, do something or say something we disagree with, but we could still find ourselves either in agreement with them at times. We didn't find them as polarizing when they did certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And I think maybe that's a factor.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. I think that when you look at what social media has done, and for me, this always stops and starts with social media, right? Social media has broken down the barrier between us and those celebrities. The idea of previously in the 90s and early 2000s, 80s, whatever, there was a wall, to where we didn't know everything that our celebrities that celebrities did, movie stars did, rock stars, whatever, and that was great. Because it allowed us to enjoy it. Sometimes ignorance is bliss in that situation. And even yesterday with like LeVar Burton, you look at some of the things that he's saying and you're like, really? Like, never meet your heroes, right? LeVar, Reading Rainbow guy. This is the guy from The Next Generation. This is the guy from Reading Rainbow. This guy's saying that. Wow, that's crazy. And for me personally, I'm able to separate the artist from the art a lot of times, but there are certain things that you're like, like companies like with Disney, I can't support that. I refuse to support that. And, that's just as a parent, I just refuse to get behind those things. So yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying. Extra Zero. I think that's, a very valid point. So
I did want to add too, I think the other good part about this lawsuit is that, Elon Musk is very deliberate in the things that he invests in and pursues. And generally speaking, when he does pursue something, it's a success. Maybe not right at first, but he's successfully privatized space exploration. He bought a giant social media company at a loss and has turned it into a much better place, in my opinion. PayPal, whatever, anything he's invested in, he's done very well. I don't believe he would have gone to this length for a lawsuit if he didn't have something, or he felt something would really back him and he could make some positive change. That is one, because Trump shoots from the hip way too much. And I would take with a grain of sand, or grain of salt, whatever. Oh my God. I'm not having a good day. And then same thing with Rumble. I love Rumble, but I worry they're leaning too far into this freedom of speech thing, and they're forgetting to make their own bed first and then come with it. But I think Elon here has something, and I think he can make some difference. And at the end of the day, what we need to do is remove political influence out of this, because that's the freedom of speech argument, right? The government is not allowed to regulate what we say, even by proxy. So that is the big issue, and that's what I'm hoping that he can fix here.
Let me just kind of say this really quick. The idea of Elon blocking people, right? Like, I block people on Twitter all the time, right? And people go, "Well, I thought you enjoy free speech." I do enjoy free speech. That doesn't mean I want to you're just annoying, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that I don't appreciate that you can say what you can say, because you can still say it. I just don't want to hear it. It's like if I was walking down the street and there was some crazy person on the corner telling me what a bad person I am because they're protesting whatever, or whatever, you walk away. It's the same thing as blocking somebody. You walk away. You don't want to hear it, so you go a different direction. Right?
I think that's muting, though. Well, I think people should embrace the mute, not the block. I think block is a bit. If I'm being honest, I think blocking is a bit beta. I think and I blocked before, so I will take this. But I think muting is more, and I say that with all love. I don't mean that to be malicious to anyone who blocks. I think mute is better because they can say whatever they want and still be around, but you're never going to see it. I think if you're a true free speech absolutist, if there's any of those left, that's what you should do. And people might,
but they can still say it. They can still say whatever they want.
True. They
I
can.
just don't have to hear it. That's
I'm
all.
actually with Shagsworth on that one. I never block people unless it's like actual like sexual harassment DMs that I'm getting. Otherwise, I just constantly mute them because a lot of these people who like target you will actually use that you block them to their advantage. Be like, oh, they can't handle they can't handle. So I usually just mute them all and be like, you can say whatever you want, and you have no ammo against me because I'm just completely ignoring you, and you're not even blocked from me. So it's like
pisses them off more.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, but it doesn't really relegate to like free speech, in my opinion. I still think they can still say whatever they want. I mean, you just won't see it, and they just can't tell you. And it's like, well, whatever. You can't tell me. I don't care. So I feel like I'm kind of with Craig, but I'm also with Shagsworth. I'm like in between.
Well,
I think
I would never block you.
I think I used the wrong word with blocking. First of all, I think is disabling the account. I think that's
you mean ban? Like ban?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
yeah.
I didn't like. Obviously, I'm all for blocking. Like I would block Blabs if I could, honestly. But remember, English is not my first language. But yeah, I think what I meant to say is disabling the account, like forbidding them from talking, not necessarily blocking, but disabling accounts.
Right, and I think for me that goes back to your personal preference, right? Blabs like I agree with both of you, right? And that comes back to the wonderful idea of you can do what you want, just don't tell me about it, right? Some people will block, some people will mute, some people whatever, right? But at the end of the day, it's not like you're saying you can't say that, right? For me, my thought is like you can say whatever you want. It's up to me to decide if I want to listen to it or not, right?
Yeah.
So and as Superman came in, if he wasn't scared of green rocks, says, I disagree. Freedom of speech and blocking are not in the same wheelhouse because they can say what they want, but I have the right to not listen and block, especially when people are being vile.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Like not the blocking, but like let's say, for example, this is just an example, not saying that it's happening. And would for a question for all of you guys, including the chat, would you say that it's an attack on freedom of speech if, let's say, for example, not saying that this happened, but someone starts insulting Donald Trump on Truth Social. And Donald Trump says, you know what? I'm going to disable your account. Not block it, but I'm going to stop you from using this platform. So you cannot say whatever you want to say on this platform. He can say it somewhere else. Now, would you say that that's an act that infringe on freedom of speech? Yes or no?
I think it depends on the terms of service of that platform. On the surface of what you just said, yes, that is blocking freedom of speech for a platform that is built around freedom of speech. But it, once again, it goes back to if they're just being mean to Donald Trump or they're being mean to Joe Biden or whatever, that's fine. Are they going in and saying, hey, I'm going to kill you or whatever? That's where I think where the line is crossed, right? Inciting violence and all that, right? Yeah. And that goes into the like people who define violence in so many different ways. Words are violence, thoughts are violence. Not saying anything is violence.
Silence violence.
Right. So, and whatever. It seems like violence is very subjective these days. So
I think it's only a violation if it's a publicly owned entity. There's times where there are some people that are annoying with my private company stuff because they tend to be a little hypocritical. But I mean, you are a guest on Twitter, you are a guest on Truth Social, you're signing up, creating an account to use their servers and use all of their stuff. It's not like it's something that a utility that that we all pay into. If it was a publicly owned thing, I think that would be a violation of free speech, but because it's privately owned, I may disagree with many of the decisions that they make, especially with blocking or not allowing people on the platform, period. But at the end of the day, it still is privately owned, and I do respect that.
Yeah, my thing is with the in response to what you said is if it's sticky and no one likes this, and you said it extra zero, is that it is technically his platform that he built. And therefore, if he doesn't like someone in it, just like if you don't like someone in your house, you can remove them. Do I believe they should? No, because these spaces are borderline public utility. Like it's so like everybody uses them to communicate at this point. But the minute you have politicians legislating who can say things based on what they believe to be morally or ethically right or wrong, that is what I'm against, because that is a clear violation of our First Amendment here in the United States. And
I agree with.
Yeah, and that we can't abide that. But as much as it sucks, technically, yeah. I mean, if someone comes in my house and takes a dump on the floor, I have the right to kick them out. And I wouldn't let them stay, even if they wanted to speak. Sorry.
But Shags, what really is a dump? But what do you think about this? Leave us a comment down below. We read every single one of them. Also, make sure you hit the subscribe button because you have found your home for common sense in the gaming and entertainment worlds.